6 hours after I buried my husband, my mother carried my suitcase into the garage and told me not to make a scene.
I was 8 months pregnant. Snow was striking the windows sideways, and the temperature outside had dropped below 20 degrees. Behind my mother, the house was warm and bright. I could smell turkey, cinnamon, and the expensive cigars my brother-in-law liked to smoke after dinner. My mother did not look ashamed. "Claire and Preston need your room," she said. "He has a bad back, and they drove all the way from Connecticut." I stared at her, waiting for the cruel joke to end. My husband, Captain Ethan Cole, had been buried that morning, with a folded flag over his casket. I could still hear the rifle salute. I could still feel the flag in my hands and the baby kicking beneath my black dress when the officer told me. Ethan had served with honor. Now my own mother was asking me to sleep beside a lawn mower. "I live here," I said quietly. That was true, though the arrangement had always been complicated. Ethan and I had returned to my hometown, in Ohio 7 months earlier. He was preparing to leave the army and wanted to help me through the final months of pregnancy. My father had lost his hardware store after a bad investment, so Ethan paid the overdue mortgage on my parents' house. In exchange, we took the upstairs guest room while we searched for a place of our own. At least, that was the story I believed. My mother folded her arms. "You stayed here. That is not the same as owning the place." From the dining room, my father called, "Linda, is she coming or not?" My mother lowered her voice. "Your father has had enough sadness for one day. Claire's husband is discussing a business opportunity with him. Please do not ruin Thanksgiving too." Thanksgiving was still 2 days away. But Claire and Preston had insisted on celebrating early because his schedule was too important. Apparently, Ethan's funeral had become part of the holiday inconvenience. I looked past my mother. My younger sister, Claire, stood at the end of the hallway in a cream sweater, holding a glass of wine. She avoided my eyes. Preston stood behind her, smiling as if he had won something. "It is only for one night," Claire said. She had said the same thing when she borrowed my car at 19 and returned it with a crushed door. She had said it when she wore my wedding earrings without asking. Claire's one night had always meant that I would carry the damage afterward. I should have fought then. Instead, grief had emptied me out. I had not slept more than 2 hours at a time since the army officers knocked on the door. My feet were swollen, my back hurt, and every room in that house reminded me that Ethan would never walk into it again. So I took my suitcase. The garage was attached to the house, but it had no heat. My father had placed an old camping cot between metal shelves and a stack of paint cans. A thin blanket lay across it. Someone had added a dusty pillow from the basement. "This cannot be safe for the baby," I said. My mother sighed as if I were demanding a private hospital suite. "There is a space heater." She pointed to a small heater with a cracked plastic case. When I plugged it in, the cord sparked. "Do not use that," I said. "Then wear your coat." That was the moment something inside me changed. Not loudly. I did not scream or throw the heater. I simply understood that the people in that warm house did not see me as their daughter anymore. They saw a tired widow with no husband to defend her. My mother shut the door. The lock clicked from the other side. I sat on the cot with Ethan's folded flag in my lap. I had carried it everywhere since the funeral because letting it go felt like losing him a second time. Under the flag was the last envelope he had mailed me. It had arrived 3 days after his death. On the front, in Ethan's handwriting, were 7 words: "Mara, open this only if I cannot explain. My name is Mara Cole." I was 30, 4 years old that winter, and until that night, I believed my husband's death had been a tragic accident during a training mission in Virginia. I also believed my family had taken me in because they loved me. Both beliefs were about to disappear. I opened the envelope. Inside was a brass key, a bank safe deposit number, and a note. If anyone asks about Northstar, say nothing. Call Colonel Elise Ward. Do not trust Preston. I read the last sentence 3 times. Preston, my sister's husband. The man sleeping in my warm bedroom. A hard knock sounded against the door behind me. I shoved the note into my coat. Mara, Preston called. You awake? I said nothing. The handle moved, but the door remained locked. Then his voice changed. The false kindness vanished. Ethan ever leave you a blue flash drive? My baby kicked so hard that I grabbed the edge of the cot. I do not know what you mean. He was silent for a few seconds. Think carefully, he said. It might be worth a great deal of money. His footsteps moved away. I waited until I could no longer hear them. Then I took out my phone and searched Ethan's contacts for Colonel Elise Ward. The number was there, hidden under the simple name E. Ward. I called. A woman answered on the second ring. Who is this? My name is Mara Cole. There was a quick breath on the other end. Where are you? My parents' garage. Why are you in a garage? I looked at the locked door, the broken heater, and the frost forming on the lower window. My family put me here. Her voice became calm and sharp. Listen to me, Mara. Do not tell anyone you called. Keep Ethan's note on your body. I am 4 hours away, but I am sending someone closer. Can you leave the garage? I checked the side door. My father kept it secured with a padlock inside, but the small window beside it had an old latch. Maybe. Then leave now. Preston Vale has been trying to find you for 11 days. My skin went cold for a reason that had nothing to do with the snow. He is inside the house. Colonel Ward paused. Then Ethan was right. His death was not the end of this. The line went dead. Part 2. THECCREMY and I used a screwdriver from my father's workbench to force the window latch. Cold air rushed in, carrying snow across the concrete floor. The opening was narrow, and at 8 months pregnant, I could not climb through it safely. Then I saw the red emergency release cord hanging from the garage door rail. I pulled it, lifted the door 6 inches, and crawled under on my hands and knees. My black funeral coat dragged through slush. The baby pressed against my ribs, and for one frightened second, I thought I had hurt her. But she moved. We are getting out, I whispered. My old Subaru was parked at the curb. The keys were in my purse, but my purse was upstairs in the bedroom Claire had taken. I started walking. After 2 blocks, headlights appeared behind me. I stepped toward a neighbor's porch, ready to call the police. The car stopped, and a woman in a dark wool coat climbed out. She held up an army identification card. Major Tessa Grant, she said. Colonel Ward called me. I had met Tessa once at a promotion ceremony. She had been Ethan's legal officer, though I knew little about her work. She took one look at my wet clothes and opened the passenger door. Inside the car, the heat hurt my frozen fingers. Tessa gave me water and drove me to a small hotel near the interstate. On the way, I showed her Ethan's note. She did not look surprised by Preston's name. Tell me what Northstar is, I said. I cannot tell you everything. Not yet. My husband is dead. My brother-in-law searched my room. My family locked me in a garage. I think not yet is over. Tessa tightened her hands on the steering wheel. Northstar was Ethan's company. I almost laughed. Ethan had been an Army logistics officer. He repaired old radios for fun and complained when I spent more than $40 on restaurant food. He did not own a company. He did. Before returning to active duty, Ethan created software that detects false parts in military supply chains. Counterfeit bolts, defective chips, altered medical equipment. Small changes can kill people while looking like accidents. My hand moved to my stomach. His training vehicle. Tessa glanced at me. The official report says a steering component failed. Was it counterfeit? Ethan believed someone had inserted fake components into several Army contracts. Northstar's system identified the pattern. He gave preliminary findings to investigators, but he also kept an encrypted copy outside military networks. The blue drive. Probably. I remembered Preston's company, Vale Meridian. It imported industrial equipment and supplied subcontractors across the country. At family dinners, Preston described himself as a consultant. He wore watches worth more than my car and laughed whenever Ethan talked about public service. Does Preston sell military parts? His company owns 3 suppliers that do. The room seemed to tilt. At the hotel, Tessa checked the windows, photographed the note, and told me not to contact my family. She arranged for a nurse to examine me. The baby was fine, but my blood pressure was high. The nurse ordered rest. Rest was impossible. At 2 a.m, my mother called 12 times. Then Claire sent a message. "Where are you? Mom is worried." Preston only wanted to help with Ethan's paperwork. 10 minutes later, another message arrived. "You took something that belongs to Preston. Bring it back, and we can forget tonight." That message destroyed the last excuse I had made for my sister. She knew. I showed it to Tessa. "Do not answer," she said. "I want them to think I am still weak." Tessa studied me. "What are you suggesting?" I answer like the old Mara. I apologize. I tell them I was emotional. That could be dangerous. So is letting Preston know I understand. I sent Claire a short reply. "I am sorry. I panic. I will come back tomorrow." Her response came immediately. "Good. Bring Ethan's keys." At 7 the next morning, Colonel Elise Ward arrived. She was tall, silver-haired, and still wearing her dress uniform from another memorial service. She entered the hotel room, removed her glove, and held out her hand. "Mara, I wish we were meeting under different circumstances. Did Preston kill Ethan?" She did not soften the answer. "We do not know." But Ethan suspected Vale Meridian was connected to the defective part. 3 days before his death, he requested federal protection for his evidence. The request was delayed. By whom? That is part of the investigation. Elise placed a folder on the table. Inside were copies of a deed, a trust, and a life insurance policy. The deed listed the owner of my parents' house as Northstar Family Holdings. The trust listed me as its sole beneficiary. I do not understand. When Ethan paid your parents' mortgage, he did not give them money. He purchased the debt, cleared it, and placed the house in a trust for you and your child. Your parents signed the agreement. Memories returned. My father rushing through papers at the kitchen table. My mother telling me it was only bank nonsense. Ethan asking me to trust him when I complained that he was doing too much for people who never thanked him. They knew the house belonged to me. They were granted lifetime occupancy, but that protection ends if they endanger you, commit fraud against the trust, or allow unauthorized commercial activity on the property. What commercial activity? Elise opened another page. Vale Meridian had registered one of its shell companies at my parents' address. Preston was using my house. Then Elise showed me the life insurance policy. The benefit was $2 million, payable to me. But someone had submitted a change form 6 weeks earlier, naming a new family trust managed by my father. The signature looked like mine. It was not. They forged it. I whispered. The change was flagged and never approved. Ethan was notified. We believe that is why he sent you the key. The betrayal was suddenly larger than a bedroom. My parents had not simply chosen Claire over me. They had tried to take the money meant to protect Ethan's daughter. Where is the safe deposit box? Elise asked. I gave her the number. It belonged to a bank in downtown Columbus. At noon, with Tessa and a federal investigator named Daniel Riz, I opened it. Inside was no blue drive. There was only Ethan's wedding ring, a photograph of us, and a small digital recorder. I pressed play. Ethan's voice filled the private bank room. Mara. If you are hearing this, someone reached me before I reached the truth. I covered my mouth. The evidence is not in this box, he continued. It is where we promised our daughter would always find North. Preston knows Northstar is software, but he does not know what the name means to us. You do. The recording ended. Everyone looked at me. I knew exactly where the evidence was. So did my family. If they remembered the night Ethan and I chose our baby's name. And I had just promised to return to their house. Part 3. I went back Smeloni. Our daughter's name was going to be Stella. Ethan chose it because it meant star. On the night we decided. We stood in my parents' backyard beneath an old iron weather vane shaped like a compass. Ethan pointed north and said, "No matter where I am, she will always be able to find me." Under the weather vane was my late grandmother's stone garden bench. That was where Ethan had hidden the drive. The investigators wanted to search the yard immediately, but I stopped them. A direct search would alert Preston. We still did not know whether he had acted alone or who had delayed Ethan's protection request. Daniel Ruiz believed the best chance of exposing the larger scheme was to let Preston talk. I agreed to wear a recording device. At 3 that afternoon, Tessa drove me back to the house and dropped me 1 block away. My coat was dry. My hair was brushed. I had practiced looking defeated. My mother opened the door before I knocked. "Where have you been?" "I am sorry," I said. She pulled me inside, not to hug me, but to check the street. The funeral flowers had been pushed into a corner. Preston sat at the dining table with a leather folder. My father stood near the fireplace, avoiding me. Claire was drinking coffee with both hands. "Sit down," Preston said. I sat. He opened the folder and placed 3 documents before me. One gave my father power of attorney. Another transferred my interest in Northstar to a company I had never heard of. The third stated that grief had made me unable to manage my finances. "This is temporary," my father said, "until the baby comes. And if I refuse," my mother answered, "then you cannot stay here." I looked at each of them slowly. "You put me in the garage. Why'd I want to stay?" Claire flinched. Preston did not. "Because you have nowhere else," he said. "No husband, no job, no money you can reach." Ethan made things unnecessarily complicated. I let my eyes fill with tears. That part required no acting. "Did you know he was going to die?" My father knocked over his glass. Preston leaned back. "Careful. Mara, you asked for his drive before I had even taken off my funeral dress. Your husband stole proprietary information? From you? From companies connected to me." There it was. A small confession, but not enough. I lowered my voice. "I found the box." Everyone became still. "What was in it?" Preston asked. "A recorder." And Ethan said the evidence was where we promised our daughter could find North. For the first time, Preston looked confused. Claire did not. Her eyes moved toward the back window. She remembered. Preston noticed. "Where?" he asked her. Claire shook her head, but he grabbed her wrist. "Where?" "The garden," she whispered. "By Grandma's bench." Preston released her and hurried through the kitchen. My father followed. My mother stood frozen between me and the door. "What have you done?" she asked. I came home. Outside, snow covered the yard. Preston kicked it away from the stone bench. My father fetched a shovel. They dug beneath the weather vane while I watched from the kitchen. Claire stood beside me. You set us up, she said. You gave me the room. Her face crumpled. I did not know about Ethan at first. She looked toward the yard. Preston said Ethan was trying to destroy his company. He said if Northstar came out, thousands of people would lose their jobs. Dad's investment would disappear. Mom would lose the house. The house is mine. The Claire stared at me. They did not tell you. I shook my head. She began crying. Mara, I swear. I thought we were only getting control of the insurance money, so you would not waste it. The words were almost funny. Wasted on what? My child. Preston said you were unstable. And you believed him because it was convenient. Before she could answer, metal struck stone outside. My father had uncovered a waterproof case. Preston snatched it and ran toward the detached shed. He took out his phone and made a call. I have it, he said. Tell Mercer we can still erase the audit. The name Mercer meant nothing to me, but Daniel Ruiz was listening from a van down the street. Preston opened the case. Inside was a blue flash drive and another envelope. He laughed. Then he looked through the kitchen window and saw me watching. Something in my expression betrayed me. He charged toward the house. I locked the back door. He struck the glass with the shovel handle. My mother screamed. Claire pulled me away just as the glass broke inward. The front door burst open. Federal agents entered, shouting commands. Daniel Ruiz crossed the kitchen and forced Preston to the floor before he could climb through the broken door. My father raised both hands. My mother sank into a chair. For a few seconds, I thought it was over. Then Ruiz opened the waterproof case. The blue drive was gone. The case had a false bottom, and it was empty. Preston began to laugh from the floor. Ethan played you, he said. He played all of you. Ruiz pulled him upright. Where is the drive? Preston smiled at me. Ask the widow. She is the only thief in this house. Agents searched the yard, shed, and house. They found forged insurance papers, shell, company records, and a burner phone. But they did not find Northstar. That evening, Preston was arrested for fraud, obstruction, and assault. My father was detained for questioning. My mother and Claire were left in the living room beneath the portrait of our supposedly happy family. Colonel Ward arrived after dark. She examined Ethan's envelope from the case. It contained one sentence. North is not a place. It is the person who keeps you from getting lost. Elise looked at me. Who was that for Ethan? I almost said me. Then I remembered our final morning together. Ethan had knelt in front of me, placed both hands on my stomach, and whispered, There is my North Star. Not me. Stella. I felt a sudden pressure low in my body. Then warm water ran down my legs. My daughter was coming 4 weeks early. And somewhere, she was carrying the last clue her father had left behind. Part T4. T. Mandogo Sald. My Hespiendes lovely at the hospital. A doctor prepared me for an emergency delivery. My blood pressure had climbed dangerously high, and Stella's heartbeat kept slowing. Between contractions, I kept hearing Ethan's message. The person who keeps you from getting lost. Stella. What could he have hidden with our unborn child? Then I remembered the ultrasound. At 20 weeks, Ethan had asked the technician for an extra digital copy. He loaded it onto a tiny silver memory card and placed it inside a wooden music box he made for the nursery. A compass rose was carved into the lid. The music box was still in my parents' attic. I told Elise. She called Ruiz while nurses rushed me into surgery. Stella was born at 2017 in the morning. 4 pounds and 11 ounces, with Ethan's dark hair and my stubborn lungs. Her first cry was thin but fierce. The doctors moved her to the neonatal unit, where she would be watched for breathing problems. I saw her for only 10 seconds. Those 10 seconds saved me. For weeks, grief had made death feel like the only real thing in the world. Then Stella wrapped her fingers around mine, and I understood that Ethan had not left me with an ending. He had left me with a reason to continue. 3 hours later, Elise entered my room holding the wooden music box. Agents had found it in a trash bag behind the attic stairs. Someone had tried to remove the compass rose, but the hidden compartment remained sealed. Inside was the silver memory card. Northstar was there. The data showed that Vale Meridian had knowingly imported counterfeit steering assemblies and relabeled them through American subcontractors. Quality inspectors who objected were threatened or paid. At least 4 military vehicle accidents were connected to the parts. Ethan's death was the 5th, but the most painful evidence was an audio file recorded 2 days before the crash. Preston's voice said, "If Cole submits the audit, stop the vehicle before it reaches Richmond." Another man answered, "Mercer can arrange a failure." The man was Deputy Assistant Secretary Owen Mercer, a senior civilian official who supervised procurement investigations. He had delayed Ethan's request for protection. He had also signed the final report calling Ethan's crash an unforeseeable mechanical failure. Preston had not physically touched my husband's vehicle. He had simply purchased the silence of the man who could. Federal agents arrested Mercer before sunrise. Preston's lawyer tried to argue that the files were fabricated. That defense collapsed when investigators matched payment records on the drive to offshore accounts controlled by Mercer. A mechanic confessed to replacing Ethan's steering component under orders from a Vale Meridian contractor. The mechanic also revealed something I had not expected. My father had introduced Preston to Mercer. Years earlier, Dad's hardware business had supplied a small government project. Mercer helped him avoid penalties for defective materials. When the store failed, my father asked Preston to rescue his investment. Preston agreed, but only if Dad allowed shell companies to use the family address and signed documents giving him access to Ethan's work. My father had searched our room while we slept. He had photographed Ethan's notes. He had forged my signature on the insurance form. He claimed he never knew anyone would die. Maybe that was true. But he knew Ethan was in danger, and he chose money. My mother knew about the forged signature. Claire knew Preston was looking for the drive. Each of them understood a different piece of the betrayal, and each decided not to ask what the whole picture meant. That was how my husband was killed. Not by one monster, but by a room full of people who kept choosing comfort over truth. 2 days after Stella's birth, my mother came to the hospital. She was not allowed into the neonatal unit, so she stood in my doorway with red eyes and an overnight bag. "Your father has been charged," she said. "They froze our accounts," I waited. "We have nowhere to go." There it was. Not an apology. A request. "You put me in a garage in winter." Her mouth trembled. I was under pressure. So was I. I was carrying a child and burying my husband. "Mara. Families forgive. Families protect." She stepped closer. "I am your mother. You remembered that when you needed a house." I gave her an envelope. Inside was formal notice that the trust had terminated my parents' right to occupy the property because of fraud and endangerment. They had 14 days to remove their belongings. My mother read it and looked at me as if I had struck her. "You are making us homeless." "No. I am taking my home back." She tore the notice in half. "Your father was right. Ethan turned you against us." My voice remained calm. "Ethan is the reason you had heat while his pregnant widow slept beside a lawn mower. Hospital security escorted her out. Claire came the next day. She looked smaller without Preston beside her. She placed her wedding ring on the table and told me she had agreed to testify. "Do you want me to forgive you?" I asked. "Yes," she whispered. "But I know I have not earned it." That was the first honest thing she had said. Claire gave investigators access to Preston's private email. She also admitted she had seen a message the morning of Ethan's crash. It read, "Weather problem solved." She had deleted it. Why? I asked. "I was afraid." "Of Preston?" She shook her head. "Of losing everything." I looked through the glass at Stella sleeping beneath a blue hospital blanket. "You lost it anyway." The Claire began to cry. I did not comfort her. That may sound cold. But there comes a moment when kindness becomes permission. My family had lived for years on my forgiveness. Every time I excused a lie, they learned that hurting me carried no cost. That lesson ended in the hospital. The trials began 8 months later. By then, Stella was healthy. Northstar had helped investigators identify 14 compromised contracts, and Vale Meridian had collapsed. Preston offered me money to support a plea agreement. I sent his letter back unopened. Then his lawyer delivered a threat. If I testified, the defense would reveal Ethan had secretly planned to leave me. They had emails. For one terrible night, I believed them. Then I read the first email. Ethan had written, "I am leaving Mara everything." The defense had removed the final word. Safe. "I am leaving Mara everything safe." The emails were not about abandoning me. They were his plan to expose Preston, protect Northstar, and disappear with me into a new life after leaving the army. Preston had tried to poison my last memories of Ethan. That was when I stopped wanting only justice. I wanted Preston to hear the truth in a room where he could not interrupt me. So I agreed to testify. Titsi ho wai take warm li ghts. The courtroom was full on the morning I faced Preston. He wore a gray suit and the same confident expression he had worn at my parents' dining table. But he no longer had a watch worth more than my car. His assets had been seized, his company was gone, and 2 federal marshals stood behind him. I took the oath and told the jury everything. I told them about Ethan's work. I told them about the forged insurance form and the hidden music box. I told them how Preston asked for the blue drive while I sat in a freezing garage with Ethan's flag in my lap. Preston's lawyer tried to make me look unstable. "Mrs. Cole, were you taking medication for anxiety?" "After my husband was killed." "Yes." "Were you emotionally distressed?" "I buried him that morning." "So your memory may not be reliable." I looked at the jury. Grief made many things unclear. It did not make the garage warm. No one moved. The prosecutor played Preston's recorded words from the dining room. "Your husband stole proprietary information." Then she played his call from the yard. "Tell Mercer we can still erase the audit." Finally, she played the file from Northstar. "If Cole submits the audit, stop the vehicle." Preston's confidence disappeared one sentence at a time. My father testified for the government under a plea agreement. He admitted the forgery, fraud, and illegal access to Ethan's papers. In return, prosecutors reduced one charge, but he still received 6 years in federal prison. Owen Mercer received 28 years. The mechanic received 9. Preston was convicted of conspiracy, fraud, obstruction, and causing Ethan's death. The judge sentenced him to life in federal prison. Before sentencing, Preston was allowed to speak. He blamed Mercer. He blamed the mechanic. He blamed my father for introducing them. Then he blamed Ethan for refusing to be practical. The judge asked if he had anything to say to me. Preston turned. "You destroyed your own family for revenge. I had imagined that moment for months." "In some versions," I shouted. In others, I told him exactly what I thought of him. But revenge was not rage anymore. Revenge was Stella breathing. Revenge was Northstar preventing another folded flag from being placed in another widow's hands. Revenge was Preston finally sitting in a room whose door he could not open. "No," I said. "I stopped you from destroying anyone else's." After the trials, the government paid compensation to the families harmed by the counterfeit parts. I used my portion, along with Ethan's insurance money, to establish the Captain Ethan Cole Foundation. It provided emergency housing, legal help, and child care for military spouses in crisis. Colonel Elise Ward joined its board after retiring. Major Tessa Grant became Stella's godmother. Daniel Ruiz sent a compass every year on Stella's birthday. By the time she was 4, she had a drawer full of them. As for the house, I kept it. At first, every wall held a bad memory. I could hear my mother's footsteps in the hallway and Preston's shovel breaking the glass. I considered selling it, but Elise asked me one question. "When you imagine leaving, does it feel like freedom or surrender?" It felt like surrender. So I rebuilt. I turned the upstairs bedroom into Stella's room. I painted the walls pale yellow and hung wooden stars above her crib. I replaced the broken kitchen door with one made of solid oak. The garage changed most of all. I removed the lawn mower, paint cans, and old camping cot. I added insulation, heat, wide windows, and shelves filled with children's books. Above the entrance, I placed a simple sign. The nar th star ra om. It became temporary housing for widows and their children. No one paid. No one had to explain why they needed safety. The first woman who stayed there was a Navy wife named Rochelle with a 2-year-old son. She cried when I handed her the key. "How long can we stay?" she asked. "Until you are ready to leave." My mother moved to Indiana to live with her sister. She wrote every month for the first year. Most letters explained why she had done what she did. Very few said she was sorry. I stopped reading them. Claire divorced Preston and testified in 3 related cases. She served 18 months for obstruction. After her release, she asked to meet Stella. I said no. A year later, she asked again. This time, her letter contained no excuses. She described the work she was doing at a shelter and included proof that she had donated every dollar from the sale of her jewelry. I agreed to meet her alone in a coffee shop. Claire looked older. So did I. "I do not expect us to be sisters again," she said. "Good," she nodded. "I want to become someone who would have opened that garage door." I watched her for a long time. "Then become that person even if I never forgive you." She did not meet Stella that day. Forgiveness is not a door someone can demand you open. It is a road, and the person who caused the harm must be willing to walk most of it alone. Over the next 3 years, Claire kept walking. Eventually, I allowed her to send Stella birthday cards. Later, we met at a park. I did not call it reconciliation. I called it a beginning with boundaries. My father wrote once from prison. He said he had believed money could repair every mistake. He understood now that money had only made his mistakes larger. I sent him a photograph of the Northstar room, but I did not send a reply. Some people hear silence more clearly than words. On the 5th anniversary of Ethan's death, Stella and I visited Arlington. The Army had approved his burial there, after the investigation established that he died because of his service. Stella wore a red coat and carried a small wooden compass. She could not remember her father, but she knew his stories. She knew he loved burnt pancakes, old radios, and dancing badly in the kitchen. I refused to let the way he died become the most important thing about the way he lived. At his grave, Stella placed the compass beside his name. "Will Daddy know which way is home?" she asked. I knelt beside her. "Your daddy always knew." A snow began to fall. soft and quiet. For a moment, I was back in the garage. I felt the cold concrete beneath my shoes and the weight of the folded flag. I remembered believing I had lost everything. But I had not lost everything. I had lost the illusion that blood alone made a family. I had lost the habit of making myself smaller so other people could feel powerful. I had lost my fear of locked doors. Those losses saved my life. When we returned home, lights glowed from the Northstar room. A young army widow and her baby had arrived that afternoon. Tessa was helping them unpack. Elise stood in the kitchen stirring soup. Daniel was trying to assemble a crib without reading the instructions. The house was full. Not with the family I had been born into, but with the family built by truth, loyalty, and choice. Stella ran inside. I remained on the porch for a moment, watching snow settle over the garden bench. The old weather vane turned slowly above it, pointing north. Ethan once told me that north was not merely a direction. It was the truth you returned to when everything else tried to make you lost. My family gave me the coldest room in the house because they believed I had nowhere else to go. They were wrong. That freezing garage did not become my grave. It became the first room in the life I built without them. And from that night forward, every door I opened belonged to me. E&D.